When successful tech CEO Naomi Ellis boarded that storm-battered flight, she never imagined that falling asleep on a stranger's shoulder would shatter everything she thought she knew about love, power, and belonging. The exhausted single father beside her seemed like just another passenger, until fate delivered them to the same small seaside town, the same quiet street, the same impossible choice between the life she'd built and the family she never knew she wanted. But when her billion-dollar secret explodes across social media, threatening to destroy the trust of the man who taught her what home really means, Naomi discovers that some storms can only be weathered together, and some hearts are worth risking everything to protect. Will she choose the boardroom that made her powerful or the kitchen table that made her whole? Subscribe now and tell me where you're watching from, because this story of second chances and unexpected love is just beginning. And you won't want to miss what happens when two broken hearts dare to build something beautiful together. The airplane shook like a leaf in the wind. Rain hammered against the small windows as lightning lit up the dark clouds outside. Naomi Ellis gripped her armrest and tried to stay calm. She'd flown hundreds of times for work, but this storm felt different, meaner. In the seat next to her, a little girl with curly brown hair pressed her face against her father's arm. The man looked tired, really tired. Dark circles under his eyes told a story of long days and sleepless nights. His work shirt had a small stain on the sleeve, and his hands were rough from years of fixing things. "It's okay, Maya," he whispered to the little girl. "Just some bumpy air. We'll be on the ground soon." But Maya wasn't buying it. Her small fingers clutched a broken crayon, and her coloring book had slipped to the floor. She looked scared. Naomi reached into her expensive leather bag and pulled out a small pack of colored pencils. She'd bought them at the airport on a whim, thinking she might sketch during the flight. Instead, she quietly placed them on Maya's tray table. "These might work better than that broken crayon," Naomi said softly. The little girl looked up with wide brown eyes. "Really? I can use these?" "Of course," Naomi smiled. "What are you drawing?" Maya picked up a blue pencil and pointed to her picture. "Clouds and a pier by the water. Daddy says we're going to live by the ocean for a while." The plane hit another rough patch of air. The father's eyes closed tight as he fought to stay awake. He'd probably been working double shifts to pay for this trip. Naomi recognized the look. Her own mother used to fall asleep standing up after working 2 jobs. "What's your name?" Maya asked, coloring carefully around the edges of a cloud. "Naomi. What's yours?" "Maya Parker. This is my dad, Evan. He fixes things when they break." Evan's eyes opened slightly. He tried to straighten up. "Sorry. I didn't mean to," but his words trailed off as his body gave in to exhaustion. The plane lurched again, and Evan's head dropped onto Naomi's shoulder. For a moment, Naomi froze. She wasn't used to this kind of closeness with strangers. Her whole life was built around keeping people at a safe distance. Business meetings, conference calls, decisions that affected thousands of employees. She lived in a world where touching someone's shoulder was a calculated move, not an accident. But something about this felt different, safe even. The weight of his head wasn't heavy or unwelcome. It was just human. Maya giggled softly. "Daddy's really tired. He worked all night fixing the heat at the school so kids wouldn't be cold today." Naomi's chest tightened. This man worked all night to keep children warm, then got on a plane with his daughter to start a new life somewhere. And here she was, running away from board meetings and quarterly reports because she wanted a break from being important. She stayed very still, letting Evan rest. His breathing was deep and even. For the first time in months, Naomi felt useful for something simple and real, not because she could make decisions or sign checks, but because she could be a pillow for someone who needed rest. Maya kept coloring, adding a small family to her peer picture. 2 grown-ups and a little girl, all holding hands. "Is that you and your dad?" Naomi asked. Maya nodded, then added another person to the drawing. "And you, because you're nice." The words hit Naomi harder than the turbulence. When was the last time someone called her nice? At work, she was smart, tough, demanding, successful. But nice? She couldn't remember. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're beginning our descent. Should have you on the ground in about 20 minutes. Flight attendants, please prepare for landing." The seatbelt sign dinged on. Around them, passengers stirred and gathered their things. But Naomi didn't move. She didn't want to wake Evan yet. He looked so peaceful, and Maya was still adding details to her drawing. "You have kids?" Maya asked. "No," Naomi said, "just me." That must be lonely. Such a simple observation from a 7-year-old, but it cut right to the heart of things. Naomi lived alone in a beautiful apartment. She ate dinner by herself most nights, reading reports on her tablet. She had employees and business partners, but friends? Real friends? That list was much shorter. "Sometimes," Naomi admitted. The plane hit another bump and Evan stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and it took him a second to realize where he was. When he saw his head on Naomi's shoulder, his face turned red. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry." He sat up quickly, running a hand through his hair. "I can't believe Maya, why didn't you wake me?" "You needed to sleep, Daddy. And Naomi didn't mind. Did you, Naomi?" Naomi shook her head. "It's fine, really." But Evan still looked embarrassed. "I'm not usually, I don't just fall asleep on people. It's been a long week." "You don't have to explain," Naomi said, and she meant it. There was something honest about his tiredness, his willingness to admit he wasn't perfect. In her world, everyone pretended to have endless energy and perfect control. Maya held up her finished drawing. The pier scene now had seagulls and a small ice cream stand. "Look, it's where we're going." "Harbor Point?" Naomi asked, surprised. Evan nodded. "You know it?" I'm heading there too, actually." "Really?" Maya bounced in her seat. "Maybe we'll see you there. Daddy's going to work at the harbor, and I'm going to start at a new school." The plane touched down with a gentle bump, and passengers began to clap. Outside, Naomi could see rain still falling, but the worst of the storm had passed. The terminal lights looked warm and welcoming through the wet windows. As they taxied to the gate, Evan gathered Maya's scattered crayons and coloring books. "Thanks again for the pencils. And for, he gestured vaguely to his shoulder. "Don't mention it." But as they waited for the plane to reach the gate, Naomi found herself hoping this wouldn't be the last time she saw them. There was something about this small family that felt like home, even though she'd only known them for 2 hours. The seatbelt sign dinged off, and passengers began standing and reaching for overhead bins. Evan helped Maya put on her backpack, then looked at Naomi one more time. "I hope Harbor Point treats you well," he said. "You too." As they filed off the plane, Maya turned back and waved. "Bye, Naomi. Thanks for being my friend." Naomi waved back, her chest tight with an emotion she couldn't quite name. As she walked through the jet bridge, she realized she was smiling. Really smiling, not the polite business smile she wore to meetings. For the first time in years, she was looking forward to what came next. The baggage claim area was crowded and loud. Announcements echoed off the walls, and the conveyor belt clanked as it moved in circles. Naomi stood near Carousel 3, watching for her black suitcase among the stream of luggage. A few feet away, she spotted Evan and Maya. Evan was helping Maya climb onto one of the metal dividers so she could see better, pointing out different bags as they went by. "There's a red one, a blue one with flowers. Oh, that's a guitar case," Maya giggled. "Daddy, you're being silly. Our bags are brown." Naomi smiled, watching them. Then she saw her own bag coming around the bend. She reached for it, but as soon as she lifted it off the belt, one of the wheels caught and broke off completely. "Oh, come on," she muttered, staring at the useless wheel in her hand. "Having trouble?" She turned to find Evan standing beside her, a small keychain tool already in his hand. "The wheel just broke off." She held up the piece, feeling oddly helpless. At work, she fixed problems every day. But this kind of problem required different skills. "May I?" Evan gestured to the suitcase. Naomi stepped back and watched as he knelt down and examined the broken wheel. His hands moved quickly, checking the connection points and testing the remaining wheels. "Good news and bad news," he said, looking up. "Bad news is this wheel is definitely dead. Good news is I can pop it back on temporarily so you can at least roll the bag until you get somewhere to fix it properly." He worked quietly, using different tools from his keychain. Maya stood beside him, holding his jacket and offering helpful comments like, "Maybe try the other screwdriver, Daddy," and "You're really good at fixing things." Within 5 minutes, he had the wheel reattached. It wasn't perfect, but it rolled. That should get you where you need to go, he said, standing up and brushing off his knees. Thank you, really. I would have been dragging this thing all over the airport. No problem. I fix things for a living. Well, one of my livings anyway. Maya tugged on his sleeve. Tell her about the rideshare, Daddy. I also drive for a rideshare company, Evan explained. Nights and weekends mostly. Helps pay the bills. Naomi nodded, doing quick math in her head. Harbor Point was at least an hour from the airport. If he was planning to drive there tonight, it would be expensive in a regular rideshare. And with a 7-year-old who was probably tired and hungry, the trip could be rough. Are you two driving to Harbor Point tonight? She asked. That's the plan. Maya's starting school Monday, so we need to get settled this weekend. Naomi looked around the baggage claim area. It was nearly midnight, and the rideshare pickup area was crowded with people trying to get home from delayed flights. The storm had messed up everyone's travel plans. This might sound forward, she said, but I'm going to Harbor Point too. If you're driving yourself, would you be interested in sharing gas money? I can help with the cost and Maya could stretch out in the back seat. Evan hesitated. I don't know. I mean, you don't really know us. You just fixed my suitcase with a pocket tool and let me use your shoulder as a pillow. I think I can trust you to drive me an hour down the coast. Maya looked up at her dad with hopeful eyes. Please, Daddy, Naomi's nice, and she has good pencils. Evan looked between his daughter and Naomi, clearly weighing the decision. Finally, he smiled. Okay, but I'm not taking your money. Consider it a return favor for the pencils and the nap. Deal, Naomi said, though she was already planning to sneak some cash into his cup holder when he wasn't looking. They walked toward the parking garage together, Maya skipping between them and chattering about her new school. Naomi found herself slowing down to match their pace, something she never did. Usually she moved through airports like she was late for everything, even when she wasn't. Evan's car was older, but clean, with a booster seat already installed in the back. He moved some tools to the trunk to make room for Naomi's suitcase, then helped Maya climb into her seat. Everyone buckled? He asked, adjusting his rearview mirror. Yes, Daddy. Naomi settled into the passenger seat, noticing the air freshener shaped like a pine tree and the small photo of Maya taped to the dashboard. Everything about this car spoke of a man who took care of what he had, even if what he had wasn't much. As they pulled out of the parking garage and into the rainy night, Maya started humming a song from the back seat. The windshield wipers kept rhythm, and the radio played soft music. For the first time in months, Naomi felt herself truly relaxing. So what brings you to Harbor Point? Evan asked as they merged onto the highway. Naomi had prepared for this question, but sitting in this car with these people, her practiced answer felt wrong. She was supposed to say she was scouting locations for a new office, which was technically true, but there was more to it than that. I needed a break from the city, she said instead, and I heard Harbor Point was quiet this time of year. It definitely is. Maya and I visited last month to look at apartments. The whole downtown area was like a ghost town, but the elementary school principal was really nice, and the rent was something I could actually afford. They drove through the dark countryside, passing small towns and farmland. Maya fell asleep in her booster seat, her head tilted against the window. The storm had moved on, leaving clear skies and bright stars. Can I ask you something? Naomi said quietly, so she wouldn't wake Maya. Sure. What made you decide to move? It seems like a big change. Evan was quiet for a moment, his hands steady on the wheel. Maya's mom died 2 years ago, cancer. We were living in the city then, in the same apartment where Maya was born. But everything there reminded us of Sarah. Every corner, every playground, every restaurant. Naomi's chest tightened. I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's okay. You couldn't have known. But Maya was having nightmares, and I was working so much just to pay rent that I barely saw her. A friend told me about a maintenance job opening at the Harbor Point Marina. Lower cost of living, good schools, quiet place to heal. It seemed like a sign. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Naomi watched the landscape change from suburbs to farmland to forests. She thought about her own reasons for leaving the city. Board pressure, endless meetings, the feeling that she was drowning in other people's expectations. Her problems seemed smaller now, sitting next to a man who had lost his wife and moved across the state to give his daughter a better life. "What about you?" Evan asked. "Family?" "Just me. My parents died when I was in college. Car accident. I don't have siblings." "That's hard, being alone with something that big." Naomi nodded, surprised by how easily the words came. She never talked about her parents' death, not even with people she'd known for years, but something about this quiet car and this kind man made it feel safe. "Work keeps me busy," she added. "What kind of work?" Here was the moment. She could tell him the truth, that she was the CEO of a consumer technology company with offices in 6 cities and 3,000 employees. That she was taking a month off because she'd had a panic attack during a board meeting and realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd had a conversation about anything other than quarterly projections. Or she could keep it simple. "I work with teams, product development. It's complicated." Evan nodded. "Most jobs are these days." They crested a hill, and suddenly the ocean spread out before them, dark and endless under the starlight. Harbor Point's lights twinkled along the shoreline like scattered jewels. "There it is," Evan said softly. "Home." Maya stirred in the back seat. "Are we there, Daddy?" "Almost, sweetheart. Look out your window." Maya pressed her face to the glass. "Wow, the water's so big. Can we go to the beach tomorrow?" "We'll see. We need to get our apartment set up first." As they drove down the winding road toward town, Naomi felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope, maybe, or possibility. Like maybe she'd made the right choice for the first time in a long time. They drove through the empty downtown area, a few restaurants, some shops, a small harbor with boats bobbing quietly in the water. Everything was closed except for a diner with warm yellow light spilling from its windows. "That's Joey's place," Evan said, pointing to the diner. "Best coffee in town, according to the marina manager." They turned onto a residential street lined with small houses and duplexes. Evan slowed the car and pulled into the driveway of a 2-story house with a wide front porch. "This is us," he said. Naomi looked at the house, then at the address on her phone. Her heart stopped. "What's the address here?" 412 Maple Street. "Why?" Naomi stared at her phone screen, then started laughing. She couldn't help it. Of all the places in Harbor Point, of all the rentals available, somehow. "I'm renting the upstairs apartment," she said. "We're going to be neighbors." The next morning, a pale sun lifted after the rain. Naomi woke to the sound of footsteps on the porch below, and a little girl's voice singing something about pancakes and sunshine. She stretched in her rented bed and smiled, remembering where she was. Through her window, she could see Evan helping Maya into his car. The little girl wore a bright yellow backpack that was almost as big as she was. School day. Naomi's phone buzzed on the nightstand. 3 missed calls from Tessa, her operations chief and best friend. 2 text messages about the quarterly review. An email marked urgent about the new product launch timeline. She turned the phone face down and headed for the shower instead. By the time she was dressed and ready, Evan's car was gone. The house felt peaceful without the usual sounds of her city apartment, traffic, sirens, construction noise that started at 6 in the morning. She made coffee with the small machine she'd found in the kitchen and sat on her little balcony overlooking the backyard. Mrs. Ramirez, her landlord, was hanging laundry on a line stretched between 2 trees. The older woman looked up and waved. "Good morning, dear. Sleep well?" "Very well, thank you." "That young man downstairs is a good tenant. Quiet, respectful, fixed my garbage disposal last week without me even asking." Naomi nodded, sipping her coffee. Evan seemed like the kind of person who noticed when things needed fixing and just took care of them. She'd known people like that in her childhood, neighbors who helped her mom when the rent was late or the heat got turned off. At work, she was surrounded by people who solved problems with money or influence. But there was something to be said for someone who solved them with a toolbox and willing hands. An hour later, she walked into downtown Harbor Point. The main street was only 4 blocks long, with small shops and cafes mixed in with empty storefronts. The off-season quiet felt like a gift after years of city noise. She found the diner Evan had mentioned. Joey's Harbor Cafe had red vinyl booths and a counter with swivel stools, the kind of place that had been serving the same menu for 30 years. A young man with short black hair and a friendly smile looked up from wiping down tables. "You must be new in town," he said. "I'm Joey. I know pretty much everyone who eats here regularly." "Naomi, I'm renting from Mrs. Ramirez for the month." "Ah, the upstairs apartment. Nice place. Coffee?" Joey poured her a cup without waiting for an answer. The coffee was strong and hot, exactly what she needed. "So what brings you to Harbor Point in the off-season?" Joey asked, leaning against the counter. "Most people wait for summer to visit. I needed somewhere quiet to think." "Well, you found it. This place is basically hibernating until Memorial Day. But that's not all bad. You get to see what the town is really like without all the tourists." The bell above the door chimed, and Evan walked in. He looked surprised to see Naomi, then smiled. "Morning. How'd you sleep?" "Great. You?" "Like a rock." Maya was so excited about her first day that she woke up at 5:30 and spent an hour picking out the perfect outfit. Joey poured Evan a coffee without being asked. "How'd drop-off go?" "Good. Principal Ortega introduced Maya to her teacher, and there's another little girl in her class who loves to draw too. I think she'll be fine." Naomi watched Evan's face as he talked. There were still worry lines around his eyes, but they seemed softer today. Moving here had been the right choice for them. "What time to call?" "You pick her up?" Naomi asked. 3:15? Why?" "I was thinking about walking around town, maybe checking out the beach. If you want company, I could walk with you." Evan hesitated. "You don't have to do that. I know you're here to have some quiet time." "I'd like to, if that's okay." Joey grinned, refilling both their cups. "She's trying to be neighborly, Evan. Let her." "Okay," Evan said. "Meet you on the porch at 3?" After he left for work, Naomi spent the morning exploring Harbor Point. The downtown area was small but charming. A bookstore with cats sleeping in the window. A hardware store that looked like it had everything you could possibly need. A small art gallery featuring local artists. She found herself at the beach by noon. The sand was empty except for a few seagulls and an old man walking a small dog. The waves were gentle today, rolling in and out with a rhythm that made her shoulders relax in a way they hadn't in months. She sat on a piece of driftwood and finally called Tessa back. "Naomi, thank God. I've been trying to reach you since yesterday." "I know, I'm sorry. I needed to get settled first." "How's Harbor Point? Is it awful? Are you bored out of your mind yet?" Naomi looked out at the water. A pelican dove for fish near the shore, coming up empty but trying again without hesitation. "It's actually really nice. Quiet, but not awful quiet. Just peaceful. Good. Because I need you to look at the third quarter numbers before the board call on Wednesday, and marketing wants to push up the product announcement by 2 weeks." Naomi felt her chest tighten. "Tessa, I told everyone I was taking a month to step back and think. That means not micromanaging every decision." "I know, but can you handle the board call? You know those numbers better than anyone." There was a pause. "Yeah, I can handle it, but they're going to ask where you are." "Tell them I'm reviewing potential satellite office locations," which is true. It was true, technically. She had toured the small office building near the harbor yesterday, thinking about what it would be like to have a team working somewhere like this. Lower stress, better work-life balance, closer to nature. "Okay, but promise me you'll check your email tonight, just so I know you're still alive and functioning." "I promise." After she hung up, Naomi sat on the beach for another hour, watching the waves and thinking. For 3 years, she'd been the youngest CEO in her company's history. She'd grown the business, expanded into new markets, made shareholders rich. But somewhere along the way, she'd stopped sleeping well. Stopped eating regular meals, stopped having conversations that weren't about quarterly projections or market share. The panic attack during the board meeting had been her body's way of saying enough. She'd excused herself to the bathroom, sat on the floor, and cried for 20 minutes before composing herself and going back to discuss profit margins. That night, she'd booked the first rental she could find in the smallest coastal town within driving distance. Now, sitting on this quiet beach, she was starting to remember what it felt like to breathe deeply. At 3 o'clock, she met Evan on the front porch. He'd changed out of his work clothes into jeans and a simple blue t-shirt. His hair was damp like he'd just washed up. "Ready for the school pickup adventure?" he asked. They walked the 6 blocks to Harbor Point Elementary together. The school was small and friendly looking, with murals painted on the outside walls and a playground full of swings and climbing equipment. Maya's going to love that playground, Naomi said. She already does. We came here the day we looked at apartments and she didn't want to leave. Other parents were gathering near the front entrance. A few waved to Evan, and he waved back. Small town life, where people noticed newcomers and made an effort to be welcoming. Principal Ortega, a woman with graying hair and a warm smile, came out with a group of children. Maya was near the front, practically bouncing with excitement. She spotted her dad and ran over. "Daddy, I made 2 new friends, and Mrs. Garcia let me help pass out the art supplies, and we're having a craft night next Friday where families can come make decorations for the Harvest Festival." "Slow down, sweetheart," Evan laughed. "I can't keep up." Maya spotted Naomi and lit up even brighter. "Naomi, you came to get me too." "I thought I'd walk with your dad. How was your first day?" "Amazing. Look what I made." Maya pulled a drawing from her backpack. It showed the beach with stick figures playing in the sand. "That's me and Daddy and you having a picnic." Naomi's throat tightened. Maya had drawn her into the family picture without even thinking about it. "It's beautiful," she said. As they walked home, Maya chattered about her new teacher, her new friends, and everything she'd learned about Harbor Point's history. Evan listened patiently, asking questions and celebrating every small detail. Watching them together, Naomi realized she was seeing something she'd missed in her own childhood. After her parents died, there had been no one to ask about her day or celebrate her small victories. She'd learned to take care of herself, which had made her strong and independent, but it had also made her lonely. "Naomi," Maya tugged on her hand, "do you want to come up and see my new room? Daddy let me put my drawings on the wall." Naomi looked at Evan, who nodded. "If you'd like to. Fair warning, it's still pretty chaotic in there. We're living out of boxes." Maya's room was small but bright, with 2 windows facing the backyard. Her drawings covered one wall, pictures of beaches, houses, families, and animals. A few boxes sat in the corner, and her clothes were neatly folded on a chair. "This is where I'm going to put my bookshelf when Daddy builds it," Maya said, pointing to an empty corner. "And this is where my desk is going to go for homework." "It's going to be perfect," Naomi said. She noticed a framed photo on Maya's nightstand, a woman with curly hair and Evan's same kind eyes holding a baby Maya. "That's my mama," Maya said, following her gaze. "She's in heaven now, but Daddy says she can still see us. She looks like she was very nice. She was the nicest. She used to make pancakes shaped like animals on Sunday mornings. Daddy tries, but his animals look like blobs." Evan appeared in the doorway. "Hey now, my pancake elephant wasn't that bad," Maya giggled. "Daddy, it looked like a rock with a trunk." Watching them laugh together, Naomi felt something shift in her chest. These two had been through the worst thing imaginable, and somehow they'd found a way to make each other smile. They'd lost everything and started over in a new place, building a life one small moment at a time. It was the kind of courage she'd never had to develop. When things got hard in her life, she worked more hours or made bigger business deals. She'd never had to figure out how to keep going after losing the most important person in the world. "Naomi, do you want to stay for dinner?" Maya asked. "Daddy makes really good spaghetti. Well, the sauce comes from a jar, but he adds extra cheese." "I don't want to intrude on family time," Naomi said. "You're not intruding," Evan said. "If you want to stay, you're welcome, but no pressure. I know you came here for some space." Naomi looked around Maya's half-unpacked room, at the drawings on the wall and the photo of the woman who wasn't there anymore. At Evan, who was trying to build a new life for his daughter in a place where no one knew their story yet. "I'd love to stay," she said, "but let me contribute something. I'll run to the store and get salad stuff." "Deal," Evan said. "Maya can show you where the good grocery store is." As they walked to the store together, Maya slipped her small hand into Naomi's. It was such a natural gesture, like they'd known each other for years instead of 2 days. "I like having you as our upstairs neighbor," Maya said. "It feels like having family close by." Naomi squeezed the little girl's hand gently. She'd spent so many years building walls around herself, focusing on business instead of people. But maybe it was time to try something different. Maybe it was time to let herself belong somewhere. That evening, they ate spaghetti and salad at Evan's small kitchen table. Maya told them about every detail of her school day, and Evan shared stories about his first day working at the marina. The conversation was easy and comfortable, like they had been having dinner together for years. After Maya went to bed, Naomi and Evan sat on the front porch with cups of coffee. The night was cool and clear, with stars reflecting on the harbor water in the distance. "Thank you for today," Evan said. "Maya's been worried about starting over, making new friends. Having you there for pickup, it meant a lot to her. It meant a lot to me, too." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the ocean breeze in the trees and the distant sound of waves on the shore. "Can I ask you something?" Evan said. "Sure. What do you really do for work? I mean, I know you said product development, but there's something else, isn't there?" Naomi's heart sped up. She'd been dreading this question, but it was fair. She was asking to be part of their lives, at least temporarily. She owed him some honesty. "I manage a large team," she said carefully. "Technology products. We have offices in several cities." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. She waited to see if he'd push for details. "Sounds stressful," he said instead. "It can be. That's why I needed some time away." Evan nodded, accepting her answer without prying. In her business world, people always wanted to know exactly what company she worked for, what her title was, how much money she made. But Evan seemed more interested in who she was than what she did. "Well, Harbor Point's a good place to step back and think," he said. "The pace here is different. Better, I think." "Yeah," Naomi said, looking out at the quiet street. "I'm starting to see that." When she finally went upstairs to her apartment, Naomi felt more relaxed than she had in months. She checked her email quickly. Tessa had everything under control, the board call was scheduled, and the world hadn't ended without her constant input. She closed her laptop and got ready for bed, already looking forward to tomorrow. Maybe she'd walk Maya to school with Evan. Maybe they'd have breakfast at Joey's diner. Maybe she'd start figuring out what kind of life she actually wanted instead of just living the one that had happened to her. For the first time in years, she wasn't planning 3 steps ahead. She was just looking forward to tomorrow. 2 days after the pier walk, on Saturday morning, Naomi woke to the sound of Maya's laughter drifting through her window. She looked outside and saw the little girl chasing bubbles in the backyard while Evan sat on the back steps, coffee cup in hand. The sight made her smile before she was fully awake. Over the past week, they'd fallen into an easy routine. Morning coffee on the porch if their schedules lined up, evening walks to pick up Maya from school, simple dinners shared between their apartments, nothing fancy, just the kind of comfortable togetherness that Naomi had never experienced before. She'd also been more honest with Evan about her work, though still not completely. She'd told him she led a large team for a tech company, that she was in Harbor Point to scout a possible satellite office location. It was true enough, and he'd seemed satisfied with the explanation. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. "Board wants to schedule a call with you Monday. Can you do 2 p.m.? Naomi typed back, "Have them call you instead. I trust your judgment. They specifically asked for you. Something about the new product timeline." Naomi sighed and looked out at Evan and Maya again. In 2 hours, they were supposed to go to Joey's diner for pancakes, then take Maya kite flying at the beach. Simple Saturday plans with people who made her feel like herself instead of a job title. "Tell them I'll call Tuesday," she typed. "I need the weekend." She got dressed and went downstairs to find Evan packing a small cooler with juice boxes and sandwiches. "Someone's prepared," she said. "Maya's been talking about flying kites for 3 days straight. I figured we should pack lunch in case she doesn't want to leave the beach." Maya bounded over, wearing a bright red jacket and carrying a butterfly-shaped kite, almost as big as she was. "Naomi, look what Mrs. Ramirez gave me. She said her granddaughter outgrew it, but I think kites don't get outgrown, do you?" "Definitely not," Naomi agreed. "That's the most beautiful kite I've ever seen." At the diner, Joey greeted them like old friends, pouring coffee for the adults and chocolate milk for Maya without being asked. The breakfast crowd was small and friendly. A few fishermen heading out late, some locals reading newspapers and catching up on town gossip. "You 3 are becoming regulars," Joey observed, flipping pancakes on the grill. "I like seeing families enjoy their Saturday mornings." Naomi felt a warm flutter at being called part of a family, even casually. At the same time, something nagged at her. She wasn't really part of this family. She was a temporary visitor who would leave in 3 weeks when a rental was up, unless she chose to stay longer. The thought surprised her. She'd been so focused on getting through each day that she hadn't thought about what came next. But sitting in this booth, watching Maya carefully pour syrup on her pancakes while Evan helped her not spill, she could imagine staying, maybe even permanently. At the beach, the wind was perfect for flying kites. Maya's butterfly soared high and steady, its orange and black wings bright against the blue sky. Evan showed Maya how to feel the wind changes through the string, how to give the kite more line when it wanted to fly higher. Naomi took photos with her phone, then put it away and just watched. Maya's pure joy was infectious. When was the last time Naomi had done something just for fun? No agenda, no networking, no business purpose, just playing on a beach because it felt good. "Your turn," Evan said, offering her the kite string. "I don't know how. It's easy. Just feel the pull and follow where it wants to go." Naomi took the string, surprised by how much force the kite generated. It was like holding on to something wild and free, something that wanted to dance with the wind. "Don't fight it," Evan said, standing close beside her. "Let it lead, but keep it steady." His hand covered hers on the string, helping her feel the rhythm. For a moment, Naomi forgot about everything except the kite and the wind and the warmth of Evan's hand guiding hers. Then, her phone rang. She tried to ignore it, but it rang again immediately. The sound cut through their peaceful bubble like an alarm. "Sorry," she said, reluctantly handing the kite back to Evan. "Let me just—" The caller ID showed her assistant's number. "On Saturday." That meant emergency. "I have to take this. I'll be right back." She walked a few yards down the beach, far enough that Evan and Maya couldn't hear. "What's wrong?" she answered. "Naomi, thank God. There's been a data breach at the Portland office. Not major, but the press got hold of it. Tech blogs are calling for comment, and the stock price is already dropping." Naomi's chest tightened. This was exactly the kind of crisis that had been giving her panic attacks. A problem that required immediate attention, multiple phone calls, damage control. "How bad?" she asked. "Contained. But we need a statement by end of day. Tessa's handling the technical response, but the board wants you to approve the PR strategy." Naomi looked back at Evan and Maya. They were flying the kite together, Maya clapping as it did a loop in the wind. Evan was smiling, relaxed in a way she'd never seen him. "Send me the draft statement," she said. "I'll review it in an hour." "Should I set up a call with the PR team?" "No, email only. I'll get back to you by 4. She hung up and walked back to where Evan and Maya were playing. The kite was flying even higher now, a bright spot against the endless blue sky. "Everything okay?" Evan asked. "Work stuff. Nothing urgent." It was a lie, but she didn't want to ruin their day. She'd deal with the crisis after Maya went to bed. For now, she wanted to stay in this bubble where she was just Naomi, not CEO of anything. They spent the rest of the afternoon on the beach. Maya collected shells while the adults sat on a piece of driftwood, talking about Harbor Point's history and the changes the town was hoping to make to attract more year-round residents. "They're trying to balance tourism with real community," Evan said. "Bring in enough business to support local families without turning into one of those places where only rich people can afford to live." "That's a hard balance to find." "Yeah, but places like this are worth protecting, you know? Where kids can ride their bikes to school and everyone knows their neighbors." Naomi nodded, thinking about her empty apartment back in the city. She knew the doorman's name and nothing else about anyone in her building. As the sun started to set, they packed up and headed home. Maya fell asleep in her dad's arms on the walk back, exhausted from sun and wind and play. Evan carried her easily, her small head on his shoulder. "She had a perfect day," he said softly. "So did I." And it was true. Despite the work crisis buzzing in the back of her mind, Naomi had felt more present and happy than she had in months. That evening, after Maya was settled in bed, Naomi went upstairs to deal with the data breach. She spent 2 hours on emails and video calls, approving statements and coordinating responses. The crisis was manageable, but it reminded her of the weight she'd been carrying for so long. By the time she finished, it was almost 10 o'clock. She was mentally exhausted in a way that felt different from physical tiredness. This was the drain of being responsible for too many things, of having decisions that affected thousands of people landing on her desk every day. She was closing her laptop when she heard soft music coming from downstairs. Jazz, played low enough not to wake Maya. Without thinking too much about it, she went down and knocked on Evan's door. He opened it wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair still damp from a shower. "Hey, everything all right?" "Yeah, I just finished with work and heard the music. I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all. Want some tea?" "I was just unwinding." His small living room was cozy and clean, with Maya's toys neatly organized in a basket and a few of her drawings taped to the refrigerator. The music was coming from an old radio on the kitchen counter. "How is the work crisis?" he asked, filling the kettle with water. "Manageable. Just one of those things that feels urgent until you handle it, then you wonder why it stressed you out so much." Evan nodded. "I used to get calls like that when I worked construction. Something would break on a job site, and suddenly it was the end of the world. But in a week, no one would even remember what the crisis was." They sat on his small couch with cups of chamomile tea, the radio playing soft instrumental music. Naomi felt her shoulders finally relax. "Can I tell you something?" she said. "Of course. I haven't had a day like today in, I can't remember how long. Just doing something fun because it's fun." "Really? What do you usually do on weekends?" Naomi thought about her typical Saturday. Email until noon, grocery shopping, maybe dinner with business contacts or a work event disguised as socializing. Sometimes she'd go to the gym or see a movie by herself, but even those activities felt like items to check off a list. "Usually work," she admitted, "or things related to work." "That sounds lonely." "It is." The words came out before she could stop them. "I mean, I'm good at my job, really good, but somewhere along the way it became everything. I stopped having friends who weren't business contacts, stopped doing things just because they made me happy." Evan studied her face. "Is that why you came here? To remember what happy feels like?" "Maybe. I had a moment at work a few weeks ago. A panic attack during a meeting. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt truly relaxed." "And now?" Naomi looked around his simple living room, thinking about the day they'd just shared. Flying kites, eating pancakes, watching Maya discover shells on the beach. "Now I remember." The music shifted to something slower, more melodic. Without planning it, Evan stood and offered her his hand. "Dance with me?" Naomi hesitated. "Here? In your kitchen?" "Why not? Maya's asleep, the music's good, and you said you wanted to remember what happy feels like." She took his hand and let him pull her up. They swayed slowly to the music, staying fully clothed and careful, keeping space between them. But even this simple closeness felt intimate in a way that made Naomi's heart speed up. She couldn't remember the last time she'd slow danced with anyone. Business parties were all networking and small talk. Dating in the city had been dinner meetings that felt more like interviews than romance. This was different. This felt real. "Thank you," she said as the song ended. "For what?" "For today, for letting me be part of it. Thank you for wanting to be part of it." They stood close for another moment, and Naomi found herself wondering what it would be like to stay here permanently. To wake up every morning knowing she'd see Evan and Maya. To have Saturday beach days and quiet evening dances. To have a life instead of just a career. The next day, Sunday, Naomi woke with a strange feeling. Something was different, but she couldn't put her finger on it. She checked her phone, several missed messages from Tessa, but nothing that couldn't wait until Monday. She decided to walk to the small market downtown for fresh fruit and coffee. Harbor Point on Sunday morning was even quieter than usual. A few families heading to church, some joggers along the harbor path, elderly couples walking small dogs. At the market, she picked up oranges and bananas, good coffee, some flowers for her apartment, simple purchases that felt surprisingly satisfying. As she was paying, the clerk, a woman about her age with kind eyes, smiled at her. "You're staying at Mrs. Ramirez's place, aren't you? Upstairs apartment?" "Yes, for the month." "I'm Sarah Chen. I run the market with my husband. We've lived here our whole lives." "Naomi, nice to meet you. How are you liking Harbor Point?" "I love it. It's so peaceful." Sarah nodded. "It's a special place. Good for people who need to slow down and think. She paused, studying Naomi's face. You look familiar, though. Have we met before? Naomi's heart skipped. I don't think so. Maybe I just have one of those faces. Maybe. But Sarah looked puzzled as she handed over the receipt. Walking home, Naomi felt uneasy. She'd been recognized, or almost recognized. It was bound to happen eventually. Her company had been in the business news regularly over the past year, and her photo had appeared in several articles. But she'd hoped to have more time before her real identity caught up with her. Back at the apartment, she sat on her balcony with coffee and tried to push away the worry. Maybe Sarah had just thought she looked like someone else. Maybe it was nothing. Her phone buzzed with a text from Evan. Maya wants to know if you'd like to come to the elementary school craft night Friday. Parents and kids making decorations for the Harvest Festival. The invitation made her smile despite her anxiety. A school craft night sounded perfectly normal and wonderful. I'd love to, she texted back. Fair warning, came his reply. There will be glitter, lots of glitter. I can handle glitter. As she typed the response, Naomi realized she meant it. She could handle glitter and craft projects and being part of a small-town school community. The question was whether her other life would let her. That afternoon, she found herself walking along the harbor boardwalk, thinking about the choice she was facing. She could extend her rental, maybe even permanently relocate the company's headquarters, run her business remotely and build a life here with people who knew her as just Naomi, not CEO Naomi. Or she could go back to the city in 2 weeks and return to the life she'd built, successful but lonely, powerful but isolated. The choice should have been obvious. But as she watched fishing boats bob in the harbor and families walk along the pier, she realized it wasn't simple at all. She'd worked too hard and too long to walk away from everything she'd built, but she'd also never been happier than she was in this little seaside town, playing substitute family with a maintenance worker and his 7-year-old daughter. Her phone rang. Tessa. Hey, I was hoping you'd call back. We need to talk. What's wrong now? Nothing's wrong. Actually, something might be very right. That satellite office idea you mentioned? The board loves it. They want to fast-track a pilot program. Naomi sat down on a bench overlooking the harbor. What kind of timeline? 6 months. Small team, maybe 20 people. Somewhere with lower costs and better work-life balance. They're thinking it could be a model for expansion. And they want me to oversee it? They want you to run it, on site. It would mean relocating for at least a year, maybe permanently if it works out. Naomi's heart started beating faster. This could be perfect. A way to stay in Harbor Point while keeping her career. A way to have both the life she'd built and the life she was discovering. Where are they thinking of locating it? They want your recommendation. Somewhere coastal, good quality of life, reasonable real estate costs. You're the one who's been scouting locations. Naomi looked out at Harbor Point's small downtown, at the elementary school where Maya was learning to make friends, at the harbor where Evan worked. She could picture her team here, young professionals who wanted to live somewhere beautiful and affordable, remote workers who could collaborate online but still have real community in person. I might have the perfect place, she said. After she hung up, Naomi sat on the bench for a long time, watching the sunset over the harbor. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could see a path forward, a way to keep both parts of her life instead of choosing between them. But first, she needed to tell Evan the truth about who she really was, because if this was going to work, it had to be built on honesty. She just hoped he would understand why she'd waited so long to tell him. Before sunrise the next day, Naomi jogged along the boardwalk, her breath making small clouds in the cool morning air. The harbor was still and quiet, with just the soft sound of waves against the pier. She needed to clear her head before the day started, before she had to figure out how to tell Evan the truth about her job. The satellite office idea had kept her awake half the night. It could be perfect, a way to stay in Harbor Point while keeping her career, but it also meant revealing everything she'd kept hidden, her real title, her company, the fact that she could afford to relocate an entire team here. She was still running when her phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had tagged her company on Instagram. Curious, she slowed to a walk and checked the app. Harbor Point Weekly blog had posted a photo from the airport a few days ago. A blurry shot of her walking through baggage claim with the caption, tech boss in town? Local sources spotted this mystery woman who looks familiar. Any guesses? Naomi's stomach dropped. The photo wasn't great quality, but it was definitely her, and the comments were already starting to speculate. Someone had written, "Isn't that the CEO of that big tech company? The young woman who was on the cover of Business Weekly?" Another comment, "She's staying somewhere in town. My neighbor saw her walking with Evan Parker and his little girl." Naomi stopped walking completely, staring at her phone. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. In a town this small, news traveled fast. By tonight, everyone would know who she really was. She needed to tell Evan before he found out from someone else. Back at the apartment, she showered and got ready quickly. Evan would be taking Maya to school in an hour. She had to catch him before he left. But when she looked out her window, his car was already gone. Mrs. Ramirez was watering plants on the front porch. "Morning, dear. You just missed them. Evan had to go in early today. Some problem with the harbor equipment." "Do you know what time he'll be back?" "Probably not until evening. Maya's staying after school for art club, so he won't pick her up until 5. Naomi felt panic rising in her chest. The whole day stretched ahead of her, waiting to see if the blog post would spread, if more people would recognize her. "Mrs. Ramirez," she said, "if people start asking questions about me, could you not give out details?" The older woman's eyebrows raised. "What kind of questions?" "Just about work or why I'm here. I value my privacy." "Of course, dear. Though I have to say, Harbor Point isn't the best place to hide from things. Word travels fast in a small town." That was exactly what Naomi was afraid of. She spent the morning pacing her apartment, checking the blog post every few minutes. The comments were multiplying. Someone had found a clearer photo of her from a tech conference and posted it for comparison. Another person claimed to have seen her at Joey's diner, acting all cozy with that single dad. By noon, her phone was ringing. Tessa. "Naomi, what the hell's going on? There are rumors online that you're dating some guy in a small town. The board is asking questions." "It's nothing, just small-town gossip." "Tech CEO Naomi Ellis spotted in romantic coastal getaway is not nothing. This is trending on business Twitter." Naomi closed her eyes. Her worst nightmare was coming true. Her private life was becoming public, and she hadn't even had a chance to explain things to Evan yet. "Handle the press inquiries," she told Tessa. "Standard response. I'm taking personal time to evaluate new market opportunities. No further comment." "What about the guy? Are you actually dating him?" "I don't know," Naomi said honestly. "Maybe. It's complicated." "Well, uncomplicate it fast. This kind of attention isn't good for business." After Tessa hung up, Naomi sat on her couch and tried to think. She could pack up and leave today, disappear back to the city before the story got bigger, protect Evan and Maya from the media attention that would surely follow. Or she could stay and face the consequences, tell Evan the truth, and hope he could handle having his private life suddenly thrust into the spotlight. At 2 o'clock, her phone rang again. This time it was an unknown local number. "Hello? Is this Naomi Ellis? This is Jake Morrison from Harbor Point Weekly. I was hoping to ask you a few questions about your visit to our town." Her hands started shaking. Local press meant this story wasn't going away. "I'm not interested in giving interviews," she said. "Just a quick comment. Our readers are curious about what brings a successful tech CEO to Harbor Point. Are you considering relocating your business here?" The question hit too close to home. How could she answer without revealing her actual plans? "No comment," she said, and hung up. But damage was already done. Within an hour, Harbor Point Weekly had published a confirmation article. Tech CEO Naomi Ellis confirmed in Harbor Point what's her connection to local maintenance worker. The article included photos of her walking with Evan and Maya, eating at Joey's diner, helping at the school pickup, their private moments, their quiet family dinners, all displayed for public consumption. Naomi felt sick reading it. She'd brought this chaos into Evan and Maya's peaceful life. They'd come to Harbor Point to heal and start over, and now they were front-page news because of her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Ramirez. "Some reporters just came by asking questions. I told them nothing, but you should know Evan's on his way home. He looked upset." Naomi's heart sank. Evan had found out from strangers, from news articles about his own life, the worst possible way to learn the truth. She heard his car pull into the driveway and looked out the window. He was sitting behind the wheel, staring at his phone. Even from a distance, she could see the tension in his shoulders. After a few minutes, he got out of the car and walked to her door. His knock was firm but not angry. She opened it to find him holding a printout of the blog article. "We need to talk," he said. "Yes, we do. Come up." He followed her into her apartment, but didn't sit down. Instead, he stood near the window, looking out at the street. "A reporter called the marina asking about my relationship with a tech CEO," he said quietly. "I had no idea what he was talking about until someone showed me this." He held up the printout. "Evan, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you myself, but you're the CEO of TechFlow Industries." His voice was flat, stating a fact rather than asking a question. "Yes. The company that was on the front page of the business section last month, the one worth $500 million. Naomi nodded, her throat tight. Evan finally looked at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted you to know me first. Just me, not my job title or my bank account. But you let me talk about my money problems. Let me worry about paying for Maya's school supplies while you could probably buy the whole school. It's not about the money. Isn't it?" Evan's voice was getting louder. "I've been worried that I'm not good enough for you, that you're out of my league. Turns out I was right, just not in the way I thought. You are good enough, more than good enough. That's why I didn't want the CEO thing to get in the way." Evan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Get in the way of what? You playing house with the working-class single dad? Is this some kind of experiment for you?" "No, it's not like that at all." "Then what is it like? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been lying to me for 2 weeks." Naomi felt tears starting. "I haven't been lying about anything that matters. My feelings for you and Maya are real. This town, this life we've been building, it's the most real thing I've experienced in years. But you've been pretending to be someone else. I've been being myself, the person I am when I'm not in a boardroom or dealing with investors, the person I forgot I could be." Evan was quiet for a long moment, looking out the window again. When he spoke, his voice was tired. "Maya's going to see this. Her friends at school, their parents, everyone's going to know our business now. I know. I'm sorry. I never wanted this attention to find us here." "Us?" Evan turned to face her. "There is no us, Naomi. There's you, with your billion-dollar company and your fancy life in the city. And there's me and Maya trying to build something simple and stable. Those are 2 different worlds." "They don't have to be. Don't they? When you go back to your real life in a week, what happens to us? Do you send Christmas cards? Maybe visit on vacation when you're slumming it with the regular people?" His words hit like physical blows. "It's not like that. I care about you, about both of you." "I'm sure you do. But caring isn't the same as staying. And staying isn't the same as belonging." They stood in silence, the weight of the conversation settling between them. Outside, Naomi could see a news van pulling up to the curb. The media circus was about to get worse. "There are reporters outside," she said. Evan looked out and swore quietly. "Great, just what Maya needs when she gets home from school. I can handle them, keep them away from you and Maya." "How? By telling them the truth? That you were just passing through and we got caught up in your temporary adventure?" "That's not what this was. Wasn't it?" Evan looked at her sadly. "Rich person takes a vacation, plays normal for a few weeks, then goes back to her real life. It's a classic story, Naomi. I just didn't think I was naive enough to fall for it." Before Naomi could respond, there was another knock at the door, firm, official sounding. "Ms. Ellis, Harbor Point Police, we'd like to speak with you about the media presence on this street." Evan moved toward the door. "I should go. Maya will be home soon, and I need to figure out how to explain why there are news vans in front of our house." "Evan, please, let me explain about the satellite office. I have an idea that could... I don't want to hear about your business ideas right now. I need to protect my daughter." He left without saying goodbye, and Naomi was alone with the police officer who wanted to discuss crowd control and the reporter who had followed him up the stairs. The rest of the day was a blur of phone calls, declined interviews, and damage control. Tessa flew in from the city with a crisis management team. The rental car they arrived in couldn't even get to the house because of the media trucks blocking the street. Through her window, Naomi watched Evan pick up Maya from school and bring her home through the backyard, avoiding the reporters clustered on the front street. She saw Maya's confused face as she looked out at the chaos, saw Evan pull the curtains closed and turn on all the lights even though it was still daylight. That night, after the reporters had finally left and the street was quiet again, Naomi sat alone in her apartment and cried. Not the controlled private tears she'd shed after her panic attack, but deep, ugly sobs that came from somewhere she'd kept locked away for years. She'd found something beautiful and real, and her old life had destroyed it in a single day. Her phone buzzed with a text. From Tessa. "Car will pick you up at 8 a.m. We've got meetings all day tomorrow to handle this PR mess." Naomi stared at the message. She could leave. Go back to the city, let the story die down, pretend Harbor Point had never happened. In a month, it would just be a weird footnote in her business biography. But downstairs, a little girl was probably asking her father why reporters wanted to take their picture. A little girl who had drawn Naomi into her family pictures and asked her to stay for spaghetti dinners. Naomi deleted Tessa's message and typed a new one. "Cancel the car. I'm staying to fix this." Then she turned off her phone, opened her laptop, and started writing an email to the Harbor Point Elementary School principal. If she was going to fight for this life, she needed to start with what mattered most, making sure Maya felt safe and protected. The next evening, after homework was done and Maya was settled with a movie, Naomi knocked on Evan's door again. This time she brought a folder full of papers and a plate of cookies she'd bought from the market. "I know you don't want to see me," she said when he opened the door, "but there are things Maya needs to know, and things you should hear before you decide this is over." Evan looked tired, older than he had just 2 days ago, but he stepped aside and let her in. Maya looked up from the couch where she was watching a cartoon. "Naomi, are you staying for dinner again?" The question broke Naomi's heart. After everything that had happened, Maya still wanted her around. "Maybe," she said carefully. "Your dad and I need to talk first." Maya nodded seriously. "About the people with cameras. They were here again today, but Daddy told them to go away." "I'm sorry about that, sweetheart. That's my fault." "Why did they want to take pictures of us?" Evan sat down next to his daughter. "Remember how we talked about how some people have jobs that make them famous? Naomi has a job like that." "Like a movie star?" "Sort of. She runs a big company with lots of employees. Sometimes people write about her in newspapers." Maya considered this information seriously. "Do you help people with your company, Naomi?" The question was so innocent, so direct. Maya didn't care about stock prices or market share. She wanted to know if Naomi's work mattered. "I try to. We make products that help people stay connected to their families and friends." "That sounds nice. Why were the camera people being mean about it?" Evan and Naomi exchanged glances. "How do you explain media intrusion to a 7-year-old? "Sometimes when people are curious about someone, they forget to be polite," Naomi said. "They get excited about a story and they don't think about how it affects real people." "Well, that's rude," Maya declared. "You're not a story. You're our friend." The simple statement hit both adults hard. Maya saw the situation more clearly than any of them. "Maya," Evan said gently, "why don't you finish your movie in your room? Naomi and I need to have a grown-up conversation." After Maya left, Evan and Naomi sat in his living room in heavy silence. Finally, Naomi opened her folder and pulled out the first document. "I owe you the complete truth," she said. "All of it." For the next hour, she told him everything. The panic attack that brought her to Harbor Point, the board's satellite office proposal, her plan to relocate part of the company here, maybe permanently, her hope that they could build something real together. Evan listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "So you want to move your business here," he said finally. "Part of it. A small team, maybe 20 people. Young professionals who want to live somewhere beautiful and affordable. It could bring good jobs to Harbor Point without changing what makes this place special." "And you'd stay permanently?" "If the pilot program works, yes. If you and Maya want me to." "What about the media attention, the reporters?" Naomi pulled out another document. "I've hired a privacy firm. They'll handle media requests and keep our personal lives out of the news. No more surprise photos or invasive articles. You can do that? Money can't fix everything, but it can buy privacy and peace. Maya should never have to see reporters outside her house again. Evan studied the papers she'd given him, detailed plans for the satellite office, economic impact studies, letters from the mayor expressing support for the project. You've thought this through. I've thought of little else since yesterday. Evan, I know I handled this wrong. I should have told you who I was from the beginning, but my feelings for you and Maya are real. This life we've been building, it's not a game to me. It's the only thing that's felt like home in years. What if it doesn't work? The business, I mean. Then I'll find another way to stay, or another place where we can start over together if you want that. Evan set the papers aside and looked at her directly. What if I can't handle being with someone whose net worth has more zeros than I can count? What if I always feel like I'm not enough? Then we work on it, together. Because you are enough, Evan. You're more than enough. You're the man who worked all night to keep children warm, who moved across the state to give his daughter a better life. You're patient and kind, and you make pancakes shaped like moons when the stars don't work out. She reached for his hand. I've spent my whole adult life being important and powerful and successful, but I've never felt as valuable as I do when Maya draws me into her family pictures or when you trust me enough to fall asleep on my shoulder. Evan's fingers intertwined with hers. The reporters will come back if you stay. Let them come. This time we'll be ready. They sat holding hands in his small living room, the same room where they'd danced to jazz music just 3 nights ago. But everything felt different now, more fragile, but also more real. Maya really wants you to stay, Evan said quietly. What do you want? He was quiet for so long that Naomi started to worry. Then he squeezed her hand. I want to believe this can work. It can. We just have to choose to make it work, every day. Maya appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. Are you staying for breakfast tomorrow, Naomi? Naomi looked at Evan, who nodded slightly. If that's okay with your dad. It's okay with me too, Maya said, climbing onto the couch between them. Can we make the pancakes shaped like hearts this time? Hearts sound perfect, Naomi said, wrapping an arm around the little girl. As they sat together on the couch, Naomi felt something settle in her chest, not the frantic energy of a business deal or the rush of closing a major acquisition, something quieter and deeper. The feeling of coming home. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning clearly marked by golden sunshine streaming through the kitchen windows, Naomi stood at the stove flipping pancakes shaped like hearts, while Maya set the table and Evan made coffee. The satellite office project had been approved. Construction would start in the spring, bringing 25 jobs to Harbor Point. The media attention had died down, and Naomi's privacy team had done their job well. Most importantly, Maya had stopped asking about the camera people. The local newspaper had run a positive story about the economic benefits of the satellite office, and the town council had unanimously approved the project. Harbor Point was welcoming their new neighbor with open arms. These are perfect, Naomi, Maya said, examining a heart-shaped pancake on her plate. Much better than Daddy's blob elephants. Hey now, Evan protested, sitting down with his coffee. My elephants have character. Naomi joined them at the table, still wearing the apron Maya had picked out for her at the market. It was bright yellow with butterflies on it, completely impractical for a CEO, and exactly what she wanted to wear on Saturday mornings for the rest of her life. Her phone, sitting silent on the counter, had 17 missed messages about quarterly projections and board meeting schedules. She'd deal with them on Monday. For now, she was exactly where she belonged. Naomi, Maya said, syrup dripping from her fork. When your new office opens, can I come visit sometimes? Of course. We're going to have a break room with games and books, perfect for after-school visits. Will you still live upstairs from us? Naomi and Evan exchanged glances. They'd been talking about the future, taking things slowly but steadily. Mrs. Ramirez had offered to sell Naomi the upstairs apartment permanently, and Naomi was considering it, not because she needed to own property, but because she wanted to put down roots. For now, Naomi said, is that okay with you? Maya nodded enthusiastically. I like having you close. It feels like family. After breakfast, They walked to the elementary school for the Harvest Festival craft fair. The whole town had turned out, and Maya's decorations from craft night were hanging in the gymnasium alongside artwork from other children. Principal Ortega greeted them at the entrance. "Naomi, how wonderful to see you. Maya's been telling everyone about your pancake expertise." "She's a generous reviewer," Naomi laughed. As they wandered through the festival, Naomi marveled at how normal it felt. Parents chatting while children played games, teenagers running a face-painting booth, elderly couples sharing caramel apples and reminiscing about festivals from decades past. She belonged here now, not as the CEO of TechFlow Industries, but as the woman who made heart-shaped pancakes and helped with homework and cheered loudly when Maya won the ring toss game. At the end of the day, as they walked home through the quiet streets of Harbor Point, Maya slipped her hand into Naomi's. "This was the best day," she said. Naomi squeezed the little girl's hand gently. It really was. That night, after Maya was asleep, Naomi and Evan sat on the front porch in the cool evening air. The harbor lights twinkled in the distance, and somewhere down the street someone was playing guitar. "Thank you," Evan said quietly. "For what?" "For staying. For fighting for this when you could have just walked away." Naomi leaned against his shoulder, the same way he'd leaned against hers on that stormy airplane what felt like a lifetime ago. "Where would I walk away to?" she said. "This is home." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars reflect on the harbor water. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, business decisions, the ongoing work of building a life together. But tonight, they were exactly where they belonged. In the quiet of a small seaside town, where love was measured not in grand gestures, but in consistent presence, where pancakes came shaped like hearts, and the greatest luxury was having someone to fall asleep against when the storms came through. Naomi closed her eyes and listened to the sound of waves in the distance, to Evan's steady breathing, to the gentle creak of the porch swing. She was home,